G'day.
Hey.
Wonderful, thank you. And you?
Right. Yeah.
Good, Rebecca.
Sun is shining.
Okay. So I suppose, yeah, as you say, like it's from the Supersonic Sand project. It's track number 10. It's release number 10. 10 interviews, 10 films. It's 20 different outputs. It's been quite a journey, but I suppose this one is different again in that, like from the music alone, it's electronic music, but it's certainly a difference in terms of style. It's certainly more orchestral. It's a beautiful, sweet, simple, uplifting kind of a track that miXile has created, and we've been back and forth with miXile, I suppose, for the last month or two as he finishes his album that he's been working on. But it's kind of like for us when we heard this Adagio for Sunrise, it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful track. We knew straight away once we heard that this had to be part of the project, even though it's kind of a new embarkation in terms of a lot of the other pieces that we've put into the project. So then Rachel and her late partner, Marc Trainer, the sand artist, who sadly, Marc died last year, tragically last summer. Marc and Rachel have collaborated with myself and Joe simultaneously across the Irish Sea and across the Celtic Sea. They're in Wales, and we being in Ireland, we've collaborated on a couple of projects at this stage. Sadly never got to meet Marc, but looking forward to meeting Rachel and her crew either in Wales or Ireland, whichever comes first. But Rachel has been spearheading a kind of tributes to Marc over the last year or so. So the first one was the beautiful stars, where all the sand artists around the world created stars, and then the current one that she's been working on, I'm sure she'll tell us herself, but is flowers. So I have been waiting to find the right moment to create a tribute to Marc, and it wasn't until Joe and I were down at a festival, the annual Wild Atlantic Way Ballybunion Sand Art event, organised by our very good friend Michael Pixie O'Gorman down in Ballybunion, that the moment was right, and Joe, Pixie and I collaborated without speaking. Neither of them actually knew that it was actually going to be a tribute. I didn't personally know it was going to be flowers or the actual tribute until I was kind of a half an hour into the flow of wandering around with my stick as they wandered around as well. So it was a collaboration, quietly, softly kind of came upon us. And so delighted when I came back with the footage from Ballybunion of the tribute to Marc, that suddenly revisiting miXile's track, the Adagio for Sunrise, that I just kind of felt these two have to come together. So I reached out to Rachel, and she thankfully was happy to have it released as part of the Supersonic Sand. And Rebecca and I kind of been working on it in the background since. So miXile is actually the person who was the last to know that his Adagio for Sunrise was going to be used in a tribute to Marc. So the flowers for Marc. So hope you all like it.
Yeah, and we've obviously had the world preview before this, so we've all seen the beautiful video with all the flowers, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And obviously you were saying that you all kind of went on the beach and you didn't know what direction it was going to take, and then it all ended up being the flowers that were necessary for Rachel, and then that's why each flower looks so different, because we've had 3 sand artists collaborate on it, and obviously worldwide there's a lot more flowers for Marc, which is just absolutely stunningly beautiful. And miXile, we were in talks for a few different tracks, and then this track was the one that we ended up going with. So it's incredibly beautiful and full of hope, and we are delighted to actually have this track on the album. Obviously, you know, you're no stranger to the sonic world with Sonic Arts and everything else that you've done. So talk to us about the process of creating Adagio for Sunrise on the back of your latest project and album.
Cool. I've spent the bones of the last 3 years working, completing my 13th album, which is a musical interpretation of The Trial by Franz Kafka, which is my all-time favorite book. And I had spent 3 years on that. It had started out as an industrial sort of slash techno slash metal album. But because I turned off the radio at the start of the Pandrama and put on nothing but classical music around the house early mornings and things like this, I found that the music started to drift more towards a classical structure and using virtual orchestration. So this project came up just as I was finishing the Kafka album, and it was a breath of fresh air for me, because it meant that I was going to be working on music that had light and happiness, and that was bright in a way, and not so many minor chords of melancholy. And I woke up one morning at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and the sun was just rising through the window, the bay window of my studio. And the entire piece of music literally just formed in my head there and then, and fired up all the equipment and stuff. And whereas normally it would take me months to create a piece of music, I work so slowly and meticulously. I had this piece finished in about 15, 20 minutes. And it was so unusual. It's only the second time, it's the second shortest piece of music I've ever created in 45 years in music. And I just put together a very basic synth sound, sort of a loop that I could delete afterwards, because it would be just there to give me a tempo. And it was 60 beats per minute, which meant that it would be falling very slow. And an adagio is usually at around 60 beats per minute. And I laid that down, and then I dropped in cello, virtual cello, and improvised. Just literally improvised. And the moment that was finished, without even listening back to it, I went back, dropped in violas, improvised on top of the cello, back to the start, dropped in my second violins, improvised that on top of that, then my first violin, track finished. And then I just spent a few days mixing it and teasing out all the frequencies so that there was nothing battling with anything else and that type of thing. But it flows. Oh man, if I could get all my tracks to flow that quickly, I'd be on my 50th album at this stage instead of my 13th, after 45 years. So really thrilled with it. Absolutely thrilled with how it worked out.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And as I was saying, it's like so full of hope and that new morning sun and that warmth and that loveliness. And it doesn't sound like any of your previous work. So it works really, really well.
I'm really thrilled about this. And I could see, like, I've become obsessed with virtual orchestration. And that's new to me because everything was supposed to be going in a far more abstract and abrasive direction.
Yeah. Dark, industrial, guttery, like.
Oh yeah, and lots of techno kick drums and the stuff that I love. So this is new for me, and I'm thrilled about it. and the piece of music, as I say, it just literally flowed so easily for me. And I say normally it takes me months to complete a piece of music. I did a piece a number of years ago that I completed in about 5 minutes a few years ago. And that was a piece, it was a sad piece. It was a piece the morning of the Madrid bombings years ago. And for some reason that really affected me. And I created a piece of music in 5 minutes. Then this piece, it was just waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, seeing the sun rise out through in my studio window, the hope of a new day, the light, the warmth, the promise, everything, the possibility of that day. And the music just came to me. And it was just absolutely wonderful.
That's amazing, because obviously Sean was saying that everyone had like the free canvas on the beach and everyone ended up creating this piece together. And off camera we were talking with Rachel and she was kind of feeling the same way about her art and creation and how things are just coming to her. So Rachel, obviously this piece was part of a series that are called like Flowers for Marc, for your partner who passed away. And you did Stars last time. What kind of pushed you for Flowers this time?
Yeah, well, yes, last year it was very beautiful when the whole global community of sand artists we all just came together and like we want to create the tribute. And I just came up with the theme of stars then because Marc just loved the planets and the stars, and it was just a beautiful way of expanding into the universe of that experience. And this year I just felt like it was, and with what's going on in the world right now and the pandemic, it felt like what can we most offer in these times is inspiration. And as hearing Mick, how nature can just inspire just profound beauty. It felt like we've had a year of sharing our sand art as well, and that's kind of been my journey the last year. So it felt, again, coming to the year anniversary, that it was time for another wave. And Marc loved flowers, and he was a gardener as well as a sand artist, and he's often taking pictures of flowers, and I bought him a rose bush, and I just suddenly thought, oh, that would be really nice. So I just checked out with the sand artists how they felt about it, and everyone was like, yeah, great, sure. And so I think we've got about 16 or 17 different sand artists who've created, whether it's sacred geometry, flowers, or roses, or improvised. So we're just getting ready now to launch this bouquet, a sand bouquet across the planet again, which is going to be beautiful. Yeah. And it's really lovely to see, Sean's improvisation, and we can plan these things and they can take a long time. And like I was saying earlier, I've found recently that the two pieces that I've completely just in the moment been on the beach, the light of the sun, the shade, and a rake in my hand, and thought I've got to create something, and drawn for 3 or 4 hours quite obsessively. They tend to be the ones that people respond the most to, because it's almost like I'm out of the way. Nature's pouring through me, and it's a dance with the universe, and people respond to that. And in these times, I think it is a new time, a new earth of possibilities. What can we pour into that? Yeah. So it's beautiful to again celebrate Marc through this second tribute, and all that he's created by forming this, bringing us together, all the sand artists. It's been a very beautiful experience.
Yeah, you're your own tribe, and then obviously all the tribes that are south. Like, it's amazing, and it's incredible that all of you can just connect to like something else, like that you're creating it, but are you creating it? Where is it coming from? Like, the sun's telling you to write this song, the sun sent you that song, the sand is telling you to draw this way. or you know, the sea around you, or the inspiration from the flowers that you saw. Like all these things are what's leading your creation. Like that's beautiful.
And I just feel also with the sand art, it's there's a lot of humility within the group, within that community, because it's something that within 3 or 4 hours is going to disappear. And it's always been called impermanent art, and I don't see it as impermanent. I feel like when I create something, it's a gift and it's an offering to the ocean, and then the ocean takes the imprint of that design. So, and then it floods into the universe, and then it'll evaporate into the air, and then it returns. So it never finishes. It continues, as I see death does too. You know, in a truth, nothing truly finishes because there is a thread of continuity that keeps going. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way of seeing it. That cycle, that continuous cycle of from sand to sea to air to earth.
And the sense that there's just this one ocean that we're all gazing at and contributing to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I also think that like with what miXile, you know, being when that sun rose that morning, and moving on from the Kafka project and being ready, like there's a couple of things there. I mean, okay, it's an improvised piece of music, it's an improvised piece of sand art by 3 people. None of any of those people knew that this was going to create, that we'd be here as a Supersonic Sand release and as part of a tribute from Marc. None of us really knew that when that sun rose for miXile that morning. But what he was, in a similar way to you, Rachel, when you were on the sand, or for myself, is miXile was, he was open, and he was ready. He had his equipment. He like when that opportunity, when the door opens and when the light comes through, you got to be ready to grasp it. In my opinion, it's like that moment, that magic moment on the sand, where you're not feeling it, and then suddenly it all comes. That there is more to it. There is that communication of it can be just this a simple mindlessness of thing of just allowing something to flow through you, as Rachel was kind of saying there, that you can actually just march for 2 or 3 hours without any thoughts in your mind, or indeed, as miXile kind of laid down with the technical knowledge, of course, and the experience, but you know, being open and ready to improvise at the right moment, I think is a kind of a key thing too. So I think it's a beautiful, poignant thing that has all come together as this release for the film. So it's great. It's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing seeing it out in the world, being released out into the world.
So this
Very
is
beautiful film. Yeah, Sean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
touching and joyful and playful as well.
which seems to be the way the song and the art works together, and also the person, which is just amazing. So this song from miXile is called Adagio for Sunrise. This is chapter 10 of Supersonic Sand, and we're calling this one Flowers for Marc as a tribute to Marc. And that will come out tomorrow at 8 p.m, guys. Is there anything you'd like to add to the interview before we stop recording?
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. No, I would like to say thanks, and I hope that it's. I love the video. I love the sound, the sand art. I keep on going to say sound art, and it's very different.
But it is kinda like it's.
It is a little bit. And it's a bit performance art as well. But I want to say thank you, and to Rachel as well, and to yourselves and Sean, and while I'm at it, I want to thank all the little people, and I want to thank all the people at Sony Music. I want to thank my Lord and Savior, and I want to thank all the people who brought me here today. On behalf of the Academy, thank you so much. That's all. No, I'm seriously. I'm really thrilled with this. This is super work by everyone.
Yeah, and we're really happy with your track and the story behind it, and very much so looking forward to the latest album as well, might I add. So
thank you.
But And Rachel, thank you so much for allowing us to use the flowers for Marc to make
Oh,
a video
pleasure.
like
I'd
this.
just like to thank every grain of sand, actually. I
Oh,
feel like every grain of sand is like a star in the sky, and it's a beautiful dance, and that we can all join together and create something like this. Just thank you all. And I'm sure from Marc he'll be ecstatic.
Well done, Sean.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a million, guys, for everything. Thanks for being part of it. Great to have you part of it. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.